Welcome back to Unstuck with Bijoyeti, the podcast where we talk about breaking through self doubt, overcoming procrastination, and taking real action towards success. Today's episode is very special because I have someone with me who knows all about the power of storytelling, not just in books, but in life. He is a master of psychological thrillers, the author of several bestsellers, and someone who has built a loyal reader base with his gripping, mind-bending plot, Novoneel Chakraborty. But today we are going beyond his book. We are talking about getting unstuck, whether in creativity, career, or life. Have you ever felt like you're second guessing yourself, struggling with imposter syndrome, or just stuck in a loop of overthinking? Trust me, this episode is just for you. Novaneel and I are diving deep into the creative block he has faced, how he keeps pushing forward despite self doubt, and the mindset shift that has helped him through all of his life. Plus, we have a fun rapid fire round where he shares some unexpected secrets. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get right into it. Welcome to the show. And
Thank you
I
so
mean,
much.
let's go back to the beginning of it all. Um, Before all of your bestsellers, before the fan following, was
Yeah.
there ever a moment in your life when you felt like stuck before you started writing, or how did you push through it?
Yeah, actually, I think the very fact that which brought me to writing was the fact that right in between during my college years, I was kind of suffering from a maniacal depression phase, actually,
Okay,
and things were such that at that point in time, I didn't understand that it was depression. It was only a few years later that I understood that I was I was undergoing depression and stuff, all because of career related choices, because I was very unclear where to go, because writing was something that I didn't start from childhood. So it was not something that which was there with me as I grew up. I
right,
was more into sports and I was more into academics and stuff. So, but I didn't have a plan, as in by class standard 12, you should have something in your mind, or so they say, whether you want to do engineering or you want to be a doctor or whatever choices you
right,
have. I didn't have anything as such. The only thing I had was, only thing I was clear about was I didn't want to do engineering, because it was something that didn't come to me, not only naturally, but I just didn't excite me. And there
right,
was thankfully no pressure from the home, so I didn't opt for engineering. But what was left out was studying medicine, which I was a little interested in, and I wanted to get into armed forces because my grandfather, my mother's father, had served the Indian Army, so I wanted to get into the Indian Army, sorry, Indian Army, in the form of like through the medical part,
oh,
you
that's
know. So I,
amazing.
I, I gave, yeah, I gave AFMC exams and all, but I couldn't, qualify there. And this happened right after, because I wanted to get into sports and all. That dream also was shattered. I couldn't get into any sport such. I was trying for football and cricket, but it didn't happen. So sports at that point in time was not as lucrative as it is today. Not that it is any easier to get into sports, but it is still the career-wise, at least in cricket and all, it's still lucrative with IPL coming in, with BCCI getting so much of money. I know that people, kids teens who play for state and all also get decent amount of money for survival, more than survival. So things have bettered from there on. Anyway, so I gave my medicine exams and all. I couldn't qualify. So after that, I had nothing. I was a blank slate. So I didn't know what to do. Some of my friends were opting for BBA. I don't know why I chose that. Till today, I have no answer why I chose BBA, because I didn't. I just don't know. It's because you have to do something at 18, 19, 20, I guess.
Right.
So I just opted for that. I was in Kolkata at that time. I just opted for BBA, and in between, like I think the last semester, I did well in the exams and all, and everything was there. But I just realized that the Indian education system was not adding any value to me as a person. It was just an individual observation that I had. That I had a fight with the chairman, and then I thought that enough is enough. And during this time, actually, stories and plots started happening, thankfully, And
So
as I
it just
started
came to
writing,
you.
yeah, it just came to me, and because my again grandfather was a writer, my dad is a closet writer that way, so it was there in my blood. But the awakening came a little late. I never
Late.
used to write when I was a kid, so when I tasted blood after writing 30 odd short stories just for myself, that's when I realized that this is what it is. This is my purpose. This is what I want to do in my life. And so that zone where I was stuck, where I didn't know what to do in life, that slowly opened up. And I
Right.
think because I was pretty young at that time, 21, 22, so what helped me was I was ignorant about life. So, at 21, 22, deciding to become a full-time writer, you need to be at least insane. For the minimum basic qualification is you have to be insane. Yeah, because that's not a career choice, right? I mean,
Yeah,
writing is always a
absolutely. I
side
mean,
thing.
till now in India, that's not a career
Correct,
choice.
correct. And in many parts of the world, in not only India, in many parts of the world, till start earning through your books or whatever, writing in any other platforms and stuff. But because I was ignorant and I was very young, so I just thought, why not? And I just jumped into it. And because I jumped into it, and when you jump into something, either you survive or you just perish. Thankfully, I survived. So that's how it all began, actually.
Okay. I mean, that's an amazing story, and how you have described it so beautifully that, how you were stuck and then how it just happened to
Mm.
you. That's
Yeah,
something that I think every young people who are trying to get into writing, they will get a lot of motivation out of it. Um,
I hope.
coming coming to people who are starting to write, I think there are a lot of people who are struggling with imposter syndrome now. I mean, it is a big thing
Mhm.
right now.
Mm.
Did it ever happen to you that while writing, after you started your writing career, you thought that, am I even good enough? Or have you ever felt that maybe this will not work? Just like you said that you jumped right into it. So have it ever happened to you that, oh, maybe this will not work. Maybe this is not meant for me. Sometimes we think in that way that if
Yeah.
something is not working in our way, we think that, oh, maybe this is not for me. We are just not good enough. Has it ever happened to you in that way?
I think because I didn't allow myself a net, because writing is and was everything that I chose. I didn't ever work anywhere, and because of that, I think what had happened was the option or the luxury to feel this was gone, because
Okay,
this is the only thing I could do. There was there was no option for me to fail or to reject myself or the career option, because this is what I wanted to do. Because I think that played a role. So I never felt that I was not good enough, because I was always floating and always was in the journey. And parallelly, I was working in the film industry in Bombay. I shifted from Kolkata to Bombay, and in Mumbai, I started working in television and all. So it never occurred to me that I was not good enough. But there have been stories and plots which I kept rejecting, saying that maybe this is not I should write. That obviously happens to every artist, and you should,
absolutely.
that's a game of choice. That what story you want to tell next. That obviously keeps happening even today. But I don't remember ever thinking that I was not good enough. Principally, maybe because I knew that I didn't have the luxury to think that. Because if I thought that, the brain functions in a very weird way. Because if you don't want to think something,
Absolutely.
it will not keep the thought in front of you. Maybe that was the reason, because I knew that I had already made the jump. Now, either it's a do or die kind of a situation. So there's no in between path where I can say that, oh, I can, writing is something I'm not enjoying. Let's decide something else. Because
Something else.
by the way, I was also a college dropout. So it's not that had completed my graduation or something, and I could safely, go somewhere where my degrees could have helped me or something. So
Hmm.
that safety net had gone completely out of the window. And because the safety net was out of the window, this is the only thing I could do, and I could only charge ahead. I could not sit and introspect whether this is it or not. This was it. That's it. Either you die or you carry on. So thankfully, maybe that helped also. So I don't remember ever thinking that I was not good enough, for sure. But yeah, initially the books were there were certain learnings that I had where I understood marketing played a big role in how you project your image. All these things play a big role, and all those learnings
Absolutely.
were there. All those learnings, professional learnings were there. But answering question, I think I never doubted myself.
I think this reminds me of something that I heard a while back from a relationship counselor who
Hmm.
said, probably in some podcast, that he was asked this question, that why do you think the relationships of our previous generation worked better than us? And
Hmm.
he said that the women and the men, they did not have that safety net option of something else. We have so many options today.
Hmm.
We have
Correct.
varieties
Yeah.
today. So
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
they
We
were
know there's a
married,
plan. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
once they were
Yeah.
married, they saw that this is it. This is how
Hmm.
it should
Hmm.
work, and this is what we should make it work. And I think
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
for career choices also, we think we should do it in the same way, that we should think of it as the only option. And you have put it very beautifully.
It's easier said than done actually. It's
Yeah,
very like you
absolutely.
know what, especially in case of relationships, because I think it works in certain cases where if you're in a really toxic marriage or
Yeah,
a relationship, then obviously there's no point making efforts, because if it is like if you're in like for what I believe personally believe in that you nobody should tolerate abusive relationships.
absolute.
You cannot make an abusive relationship or an abuser make it work.
Work.
You cannot give second chances to
Hmm.
a continued serial abuser.
Right.
So obviously, but if you think that the person is worth it, if the relationship is worth it, then it always makes sense to give it some
Give
time
it
and
a
see how it
give it a
goes.
chance and give
Yeah,
it
and
some time.
rather not take a momentary heat of the moment kind of a decision and just call it, because it's very easy to destroy something. It's all the
Absolutely.
more difficult to construct. And though we have options in today's time, but it's also very important to note that you are there's no guarantee anywhere, right? Just
Absolutely.
because plan A didn't work, there's no guarantee plan B will work. You know, so you have to see those things in various lenses, just not one.
The pros
So
and
yeah, I
cons
mean,
of everything.
yeah, everything has its own pros and cons, and you have to see as an individual what suits you and what doesn't suit you. And that's what matters in the end, because it's about your
Right.
life and your comfort and your discomfort and everything. So in a way, if there is no net, it definitely makes you desperate. It keeps you on your toes, especially when it comes to career, and it keeps you on your toes and makes you maybe go the extra mile and not take. Sometimes we take ourselves also granted and our own
Granted,
talents also
huh?
granted. You know, so and when you work for long enough, as I have worked in the creative industry, film industry, or the
Right.
publishing industry, you realize it's not always the talent. It's the tenacity. I think in life also in general, it's just the two things: tenacity and patience.
Right.
If you can strike a balance between patience and tenacity, you will definitely go a long way. Most of us, I feel, jumble up these two, and are not able to strike a balance between, patience and hard work or tenacity, on how much we can stretch ourselves. And we get either depressed easily or let down easily. We let ourselves down easily. So that balance is also very important to maintain. I feel doesn't matter which path you are in.
Coming to relationship complexities, I mean, in India right now, probably you are the one who is super adept in doing psychological complexities in your book. You do it beautifully. The way your books dive deep into the psychological complexity. And sometimes, as readers, we find ourselves stuck in that complexity, that what is going to happen next, or maybe
Hmm.
how can this person think so complex?
Hmm.
You being the one who's writing it, do you ever find yourself emotionally stuck on the intense themes you're writing about, or does that ever play with your mind, or how do you detach and keep moving forward with your characters in that way?
All the time, because I feel if you're writing anything, I mean, even if it's a light-hearted something or as dark as what I write in my book, you cannot write it from the periphery. You cannot
Right,
write it as an outsider or just as an observant or observer. You have to be in the thick of things. And when I say I have to be in the thick of things, doesn't necessarily mean that all those things have to happen with me
right,
personally or in my individual life. What I mean, and there's a similarity between actors and writers here, that the basic thing that we need to do is get inside the head of a character. Even actors have to do that. And writers also have to do that. The only difference is that they have to emote it also. We don't have to emote it for the world. We can emote it through our words, and we can, nobody's looking at my face how I'm going to emote it, but through my words I'm emoting it. But the basic thing is that I have to get inside the head of the character. So just in
I think
case an
it's
emotion
even more
happens.
difficult because you have to be there in your head for a longer time, being as a
Yeah, that's
writer.
why writers are often crazy people, you know, because we sometimes lose our mental balance because it's so intense. It's especially when you're writing and getting into dark zones. It can get intense, and it can sometimes it can just you can just go a little cuckoo in the head, and you just need
Right,
to know exactly where to stop and where to take a step back and not become what you are writing, because essentially maybe you are not that person. And if you are that person, that's a different thing. But if you end up writing 20 odd books, not everything can happen to you. You know what I mean?
right.
You have to not only observe, you have to internalize a lot of things, but also you have to place yourself in a situation in your mind and play out that scenario as if it's happening for real.
For
you
you.
know and yeah, for you, for me, and I have to imagine scenarios. If I'm writing about a very layered, intense, um, complicated relationship with a woman, then I have to imagine that in my mind. The woman has to be in my mind, not necessarily in my life, but
Right.
in my mind, the that woman has to be there in all flesh and blood, and I have to be in that relationship with that woman in my head till I'm writing the book, and then I have to slowly live that scenario again and again and again, and we have to stretch the scenario also. It's almost like living a dual life, one which is the outer world sees me, and the other one is in my head, where I am probably, I'm with someone,
Hmm.
doing something else altogether. So in my head, it's a reality, but for the world, it's not. You know,
It's not.
and
Right.
it's tricky. It's tricky, but it's very interesting. It gives me a high because and I have no other addictions. So I don't smoke. I don't do anything else. So this is my high.
To
To to think scenarios and kind of see what happens, and then place my experience of the outer world into those scenarios and see how what kind of reactions I can take out, and those reactions are relatable or not. And the magical part is that even though I'm imagining those stuff, it's only when I end up writing the book and people get to me, DM me or email me saying that they are living those things, those complications in their life. So sometimes the imagination is just not imagination. It's something you have subconsciously
That's
taken from
happened
real
with
life.
someone's reality.
Yeah. And that I feel is very magical with creativity. You in your head think that it's very original and pure, and only you have created it. It has no resonance with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You hope there is a emotional resonance, but there's no the resonance of the truth is not there. You feel because it's kind of born in your mind, but there's always someone who is living your imagination for real, and
Right.
that kind of also gives me a high. So yeah, I feel stuck in my head many a times, and that's the fun part of it. I feel that's what I enjoy, to have constantly a scenario in my mind, and try to, it's like playing chess, try to just outsmart the that scenario, or just just let it be and see where it goes. Kind of, sometimes you don't have to jump in and do everything. Sometimes you should just let
Absolutely.
go of a scenario and see organically where it reaches. And that's how I kind of obviously there are personal experiences, my own observations of life, my the my perspectives of things. But as a writer, I try my best that I don't always give my personal perception into characters, because then all my books will read the same. Because perspective wise, how different can you be unless and until you are a schizophrenic person? You know what I mean? Your perspective will be same, that way. But so yeah, I mean, in my mind, I keep doing that. I feel stuck, but I enjoy that bit where I'm stuck and I'm kind of wrestling creatively to get to somewhere which excites me as a storyteller.
Great. Um, that brings me to another question which is there in my mind. I mean, I have prepared a
Mhm.
set of questions and this is there in my mind.
Sure.
I got introduced to you through Million Dollar Girl.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
The TV
So
series, yeah,
the TV series.
yeah.
I
That
did
was a
not
long time
read
back.
the,
Oh my
that
God,
was a long time back. And
long
then
time
I
back. Yeah.
started reading your book.
All
But
right.
You were one of the first writers in India who thought in a perspective that a woman owned business and portrayed that on the television. That is
Hmm.
still not done in India enough. Like a woman
Hmm.
owned business perspective
Yeah,
to
yeah.
television or movies or anything. And being in a TV serial and that concept in a TV serial, how did that come to your mind? And like, do you plan on exploring that? And how do you think a woman-owned business is any different from, a man-owned business? Like, what is there in your mind in that way?
So to be honest, that particular idea was not mine as such. I was hired as a writer to write it. That was I don't remember whose ideas were, but I think the producer's idea it was, as far as I can jog my memory. But it was and television shows, films, these are more collaborative art.
Right.
It doesn't mean that one particular person can't have a seed germ of an idea. Obviously, they can, but essentially the development of the idea into a show happens collaboratively. The platform is there,
Absolutely.
the channel is there, and everything. As far as I remember, the show worked decently, not amazingly, I guess. Maybe the people watching it were not ready to take a woman in business. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but that's what my interpretation was. That
I mean, it
perhaps
was way ahead of its time.
yeah, could be because I was never given any feedback on that why it didn't run the the way we thought it would. So I don't know, but uh, it is an idea worth exploring. But then I also believe that from uh, that era, which is like 10 to 12 years back, I guess, uh, till now, a lot of women empowerment and all those stories have been told. Now I don't think so, because it was very unique then, but now that 12 years has passed, I think the idea, and now because India has also grown to be this entrepreneurial dream, that thing has
Yes.
also happened. A lot of women have gone out, started their own businesses and all. You could always say that story, but the purity of that was then in that era because nobody else was doing it. Now
I
we
mean,
have seen
that
so
was
many
one
movies,
of the
beautiful movies.
main motivation for me to start my business. I mean, when I saw
Could be,
that,
yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
started
That's
it 10
amazing.
years back. So when I watched it,
Oh,
it
lovely.
gave me that high.
So that's what I'm saying, because it was so not uncharted territory in a way. Now it is, women empowerment and all has been, I'm not saying done to death, but a lot of
Hmm.
beautiful stories have been told. And doesn't mean that you cannot again say another beautiful story regarding a woman and setting up her own business. You can always say it because emotions, you have to just derive unique emotions to say your story. But I would say right now, what triggers me, what kind of excites me as a storyteller is also a little different than what he used to do 12 years back. Because I also, as an artist, have evolved.
Evolved.
So that's also there. That's also there. But I'm glad you brought out this show, because it was my, I think, first television show. My name had come out or something. Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, I saw that and then I was like, okay, let me explore who this writer is. And then I started reading all of your books and I haven't stopped
Right.
ever since, but that was the first.
Thanks.
I mean, I still sit with your book, and I think you're one of the very few writers with whom I sit with the book and then end up reading 2 days straight. I mean,
Okay.
I don't stop until I finish the book. I
See, that's what
remember
happens with my
very,
books. A lot of readers tell me. So I take almost 7, 8 months to write a book. These days, a little longer, but and people say that I finished it in one night or 2 nights, and
yeah,
which is good in a way, because I kind of keep that in mind while I'm writing it, because I know I'm writing page turners and thrillers and everything. That's a good thing. You don't want a person come to you and say I read your thriller in 6 months. I mean, that would be really heartbreaking. So it's a good thing. But then also the writer in me, like, oh, I worked hard for 8 months, and this person just finished off. Again, it's kind of a catch-22 for me, like a mixed emotions, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, I remember very recently this happened. I started reading the book, and then until I finished it, like it was a two-part book. I'm forgetting the name. I think
Could
it
be Forever
was,
series.
yeah, Forever series.
Yeah, because that's the
So it was
duology I've written. Yeah.
duology, and I started reading it. I did not have the second book with me yet, I went to Star I
Okay.
ordered the book right there. It was not there on, in South City Star Mart. They ordered it
Okay.
from Quest Star Mart and they got it there. I stood there until it arrived, got the book, came back, started reading again. That's how I read the
Thank
Forever
you so
series.
much.
So,
Thank you.
coming to you saying that you write things in 6 to 7 months or 8 months, I think many people in business and in writing or in jobs even, they struggle with perfectionism and they think that their work has to be flawless. People who are even creators right now, before publishing their content online or works online or even in books, they think that it has to be flawless. So, how do you balance between being flawless as you forever are and also finishing a book within a timeline? And that you have to write maybe 200 pages or 250 pages within it and fill the book, and then being perfection.
Yeah. So I have a different theory to it. So I feel the word perfection or perfectionism or whatever, it's overhyped, because it's so acutely subjective that I don't think anybody can define it.
Right,
Everybody will have their own definition of this word. Uh, and I would like to add that there are two kinds of flaw when we are into creative pursuits. One flaw is whether craft wise or storytelling wise you have done something which is basically a cardinal sin. You should not have done it because it just drops the impact of the story. That's one part of the flaw. The other kind of flaw, which I deliberately do, and I feel all my creations need to be flawed, is where my theory comes in, is that only flawed things are remembered. This is my theory. I don't think anybody remembers perfect stuff. You
right,
know, uh, that's my personal. It's just a theory. I cannot substantiate with thing. But when I look back at books, my favorite books or movies or whatever, I know there is this one flaw. And when I say again, because that's why I clarified, I'm not talking about flaws relating to craft and storytelling. There are certain things like, oh, if the character could have done this, it would have been amazing. I want my readers to say that, you know, one of those endings where you like, shit, you shouldn't have done that. And I deliberately, when I write it, I do that option, I take that option because I want that flaw to come in.
right.
Because I feel that's because of that flaw you talk about a story. Because of that, for example, I'm just giving a very broad example.
Right.
Uh, in the film Sholay, they could have
Hmm.
easily let Amitabh Bachchan's character alive. I mean, the story is not altered because of it. If he's alive, also, even then, Gabbar can die and everything.
Hmm. Hmm.
But because there was one thing that had just taken off, there is a little bit of emptiness in the end. Everything is else is all right. Gabbar, was punished, and Thakur got his revenge, and Viru got his, heroine and
Forever.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
One tuck in the thing that, oh, so that tuck I love to have in my stories. And as I said, this is my theory, that those tucks, those flaws is what makes you kind of remember a story forever. So
Right.
it doesn't mean that perfect stories can't exist. That's not what I mean. I mean that there has to be something in the story that makes you like, I you know should have been this way, that way.
Yeah.
So I kind of deliberately do it sometimes, because I like to tell stories, that way. Like, for example, um, in Roses Are Blood Red,
Hmm.
so Vanav Singh Thakur could have lived. It was not necessary for him to die.
For him to. Yeah.
But I killed him because there was a reason that somewhere it was making the incomplete romance of his complete in an incomplete manner. Because
Right.
he realized something and he thought that this madness will only end with his own end. That realization for me was a little flawed realization. He could have just walked away
Absolutely.
from
Yes.
life
I
and
thought in the same way
disappeared.
that okay, he could have lived.
Yeah, yeah, he could have lived and he could have just disappeared. He could have
Yeah.
left that note that he had, voice noted, Risha, and he could have just left. But just the left part was not making me see it in that, quote unquote flawed manner. The fact that he actually dies, then if he had left, the epilogue wouldn't have happened. I
Right.
thought the epilogue for me, where the junior Arisha puts the ashes on her body and jumps on the river, it's a very poetic justice. Where the two protagonists come into and meet via the ashes. It happened only because the other guy died.
Right.
Otherwise, he would have walked in and the epilogue wouldn't have happened. And for me, that epilogue was the summation of the entire tragedy of a romance that it was. You know, so for me, more than perfection, of course, craft-wise and everything, you should give your best. You should tell your story to the biggest and the most dramatic, the most dramatic impact that you can get out from a story according to you and your own, cognizance of things. But I don't like stories which have everything settling down. At the end of it, there are stories
Happy
where
endings.
uh, happy endings and everyone got everything, because I think life is not doesn't have an happy ending. Life is like that. You get some, you lose some. And I want to
Absolutely.
keep that vibe alive in my books. You get some, you lose some.
Lose some.
So that's my take on the entire perfectionism bit.
Perfectionism. Great. The last segment of the whole podcast of today, I think we have a rapid fire,
Sure.
and I will ask you a few questions on that. What is one book that has changed your perspective on life?
Actually, there are many, but I would say The Fountainhead, because I read it when I was at a very impressionable age. So that really altered me. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand.
Okay. If you had to write a thriller about your own life completely, what would the title be?
Wow. Uh, what? I would keep it like one of my books title, Whisper to Me Your Lies.
Okay, that's amazing. Um, what is the one weirdest place that you have ever written a story idea or plotted a story idea
I don't know about weird places, but I don't know, and it has happened with a lot of people. A lot of ideas come when I take a shower, yeah, and I've heard that it happens to
Oh,
a
that's
lot of people.
amazing. Yes, yes, yes.
A lot
I
of
mean, I
people
have,
have
yeah, I also
get
have
their
business
ideas
ideas
in
in
the
my shop.
washroom. Yeah, so maybe that's a weird. I don't know if it's a weird place or not, but it's definitely not your normal place to
Normal place.
think your stories. Otherwise could be like I don't remember any weird place as such.
Right. What is that one writing habit that you swear by? The one you, or the one you wish you could break?
One I swear by is I never write with a bad energy. So if I don't feel like writing, I don't write. So I don't
Okay.
write to just fill up a paper with some words or something. And it is very visceral. It comes from the within. If I don't
Hmm.
feel like the energy is right, I just don't write. I might
Mm,
think, I might do whatever I want to, but I don't write at that period of time. So because I really feel that if I write with bad energy, it will not translate into the kind of energy I want my readers to read and feel, because most of my stories are very intense.
yes.
If I myself, I am not writing in an intense with an intense energy, that will not transpire to the reader. So any day I have a bad energy, or if I don't feel like writing, I don't write. So that's something I completely swear by. I've never broken that rule of mine. And something I would love to break would be, I think that's with every writer, deadlines. I think every writer wants to push his or her deadline of submission. But again, I think it's because of deadlines that we get our work done on time. So yeah, it's one of
Right.
those necessary evils, I guess.
Okay. How would you rate this podcast that we had today? And like, what is your thinking about it now that we are at the
I
end
think
of
it's
it?
Yeah, I think the topic is amazing. Unstuck and all, which I think is very uncommon as well. And because we are living in an era of podcasts, it's so difficult. I know, to uh, you know to get on with a theme which is not common, because
Right.
a lot of podcasts are happening. So it's very important to get on with a theme which is relatable, and yet no one else has picked up. So that way I felt quite connected with it, and that's why I'm here. And obviously I wish you all the best, because I know the
Thank
journey is
you
just
so
beginning.
much. Yes,
I'm sure
absolutely.
maybe whenever season 2 or whatever comes out, and if you care to bring me on again, I'm sure by that time
Absolutely.
it will grow many folds.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What is one thing that, I mean, this is a very common question, maybe, but what is one thing that you want to suggest, or one piece of advice that you want to give to the younger people who are just getting started?
I don't know. I don't like to give advice or suggestions to anybody actually, but if I have to say something, then it would be just live your mistakes. Don't be scared of anything. Life eventually works out this way or that way. So if you want to take risk, just take risk, and just be responsible. Responsible.
Right.
If you have the responsibility of other people, just take responsible risks. Don't be completely crazy. If there are other people uh, whose life will be impacted by your decision, just be responsible that way. Otherwise, just make mistakes, go ahead, live your life, do what you feel right, and yeah, just create your own magic, I would say.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being on this show with me. I
My
hope
pleasure.
that I can have season two, three, and I can bring you on every
You
season.
know, I'm sure it will go a long distance.
And the last question that I have from my personal end,
Sure.
when is the Heartbreak Club 2 coming? I'm
Okay,
eagerly
now that
waiting
we're
for it.
recording this, doing this podcast, tonight only I'm sitting on the edits that it's have come on.
Oh, that's
So I
amazing.
think, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've already gone through the edits once. So I think, what April should be, April should is the month, I guess, as of
April is
now.
the
The date has not been long. I'll announce it, but April is the month, I think, when the break
that's
part
that's
club part
something
two.
that's something great. I mean, the audience would love it when you announce
Yeah, I've
April.
been I've been getting a lot of DMs constantly because I had announced it that the book will come in February, but for some reasons it could not. So now I'm not announcing it, but as of now it's April is when we are
Tentative
expecting the book
date
to
is
release.
April.
Yeah, tentative, but most 90% should be there because most of the
Okay.
work is done, the cover is locked and everything. So fingers crossed. I hope people like it because that's where this is the book where things uh, finally come to a solution.
Oh, that's great. Now I'm eagerly waiting for it.
Yeah, yeah, this is the final part of the book, obviously. It's a duology again,
Okay.
and we get to know who the king is and what happened to Anara and what will happen to Kisha and Tabish, the romance and everything. Yeah.
That's amazing. Again, thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm
Thank you. My
looking
pleasure.
forward to more. Wow, what a conversation, Navoneel. Your journey, your insights, and your perspective on getting unstuck are exactly what so many of us needed to hear today. For those of you listening, if this episode gave you even one new perspective, one aha moment, or just that one push that you needed to take action, do me a favor, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more of Navadeen's incredible storytelling, make sure to follow him on his Instagram handle and check out his books. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button so you never miss an episode of Unstuck with Bijoyeti. We've got more incredible conversations coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of them. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep taking action, and remember, you're never as stuck as you think you are. See you soon.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
me
you
and
so
all the
much.
best for all the future episodes.